What's going on YouTube? Today we're going to be showing you how to replace the heating element or the baking element on an oven. So for the most part, replacing this is pretty standard on, or at least how we're going to do this, is pretty standard on most ovens, but this is specifically a GE oven. Most GE ovens are pretty close to the same. The connections of the actual baking element are a little bit different. This one looks like it's going to be like a if you can see here, it looks like you're going to actually use a connection or connector to connect to it, versus I've seen some actually screw in, like the connector in the back of the oven will actually screw the wires into it. But we'll see once we pull this apart. I think this one's just going to be a pull or an actual connector that you slide onto it, like a butt connector. But anyways, the one in here actually broke somewhere along the lines right here and no longer works. We were actually using it to self-clean and it got too hot, and I don't know if something dripped on it enough. I don't know exactly, maybe just wear and tear, not really sure. The first thing you need to do is find out what oven you have, what kind of model do you have, or make and model are very important. Obviously this one's a GE, you can see the GE symbol here, but I didn't see any make and model on this at all. Sometimes they have it, or I'm sorry, not make, but model. Sometimes they have the model inside the actual, like a little or tag or something inside the door. Most likely you can see the model on the back side of it. I didn't necessarily want to remove this or pull this out all the way because the actual granite is really close to it and it's really hard to, it's a really snug fit. So what I did is I went ahead and got the actual manual itself, and right here it kind of shows the owner's manual for all these different models here, and that tells me that this oven, all these different models, are pretty damn close to the same, if not the same, for the most part. As you can see, these are all pretty close to the same in numbers, and then these two are the same on the numbers, so that might be just a different, maybe European style, I'm not sure 100%. If you know, comment below. But either way, so what I did is I went ahead and just picked one here and Googled baking element and that actual model number for GE. And this is what it came with, or came to. I ended up finding one some random place for like 12 to 15 bucks. I can't remember what it was. And the funny thing is, when it came from a warehouse in Kansas City where I live, so that was kind of funny. But either way, I'm sure you can find them at an appliance repair place at your hometown if you have one. Some people, I just went ahead and ordered online because it would easy for me while I'm working and go ahead and order it, and it came the next day, or actually came 2 days later. But either way, we're gonna go ahead and replace this. I'm gonna show you how. So first thing is, what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually unplug. Well, you wanna unplug the actual oven. Anytime you're working on something electrical, you wanna unplug it so you don't get shocked. For one, this is on 240. It's not your regular 120 plug like over here, but this is 240, so it's basically double that. And it's gonna be more than a tickle if he gets shocked on it. But either way, just for safety protocols, because most likely it'll be fine, we're gonna go ahead, instead of pulling this out to unplug it, I'm gonna go ahead and go down and turn off the breaker on it. So how we're gonna install it is, as you can see here, there are two different holes here. And actually this pushes back to the actual rack on the bottom, and there's two bolts, or two screw bolts that go in here. I don't know if you can see there, but there is, well, as you can see here, it's broken, completely broken right there. And actually it's a little bit more broken right there too. And as you'll see, this actually looks pretty much close to the same design as the one I bought, as well as the back plate here looks pretty close to the same. The design of this may not be 100% accurate to what you bought, but as long as it's for your actual oven, you'll be fine. I recommend removing the racks for better access. We're gonna go ahead and unbolt those two bolts there. And so mine are actually bolts, they're 1/4 inch. And some are screws. I've seen some that are screws, so just look at it and see what it is for you. But mine are 1/4 inch bolts. But before I do that, I'm actually gonna turn off the light. Well, the light's on, but I'm gonna actually turn off the breaker. So as you can see here, here's the range, and so that's the actual oven itself. So we're gonna go ahead and flip that breaker, and it's a double breaker. So now that there's no power on the oven, we're gonna go back up there and start working on it. All right, a good way to tell that there's no power going to this is the clock is gone. No longer have the clock display. So that means there is no power going to the oven itself. So let's go ahead and get those bolts out. So go ahead and take these off, get them loose. once you get them loose, you can probably do them by hand with the extension in that socket. Maybe. Nope. Now, one thing to actually think about when you're doing this is make sure when you pull this out and you undo the wires that they don't fall backwards into the back side of this. If they fall backwards into that, then what's going to happen is you're going to actually have to remove the oven from where it is. And we're going to actually maneuver this so we can get those wires out. All right, so it's kind of a pain in the butt a little bit because these two probes kind of go up into the back side of this. So you kind of have to angle it up higher and kind of pull it out. But as you can see, here's the two connectors. And so what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna remove these from here. Watch where the wires are. So the orange goes to this. It looks like a white wire. Yep, white wire goes to this one. So when you slide those connectors off, when you put the new one in, make sure the orange one goes to this side and then the white one goes to this side. So I wanted to show you how the wire actually removed. So you just slide it off there. And it was kind of a pain in the butt to pull off. You might use a pair of pliers, but I actually got it by hand. So let's get the new one and put it in. All right, so make sure those are out far enough. This one I didn't have much room with, so I'm gonna go ahead and start with this one first. So this one's actually causing a little bit more of a problem than I want to, but we're gonna use a pair of needle nose. All right, so I wasn't gonna make you watch me struggle on that, but my problem was that this wire wasn't coming out far enough. So it wasn't allowing me to actually get on it. But anyway, so you angle the element back in and then line up the screw holes here. And we're gonna go ahead and put those screw holes or the screws back in. And then we're gonna go ahead and turn on the actual breaker and fire it up to see if it works. When you tighten this down, don't crank it down too much. Just one little ugga-dugga will work, but just know you don't have to like really get it down. So now here we go. Now we have the two screws back in and the wires on it, and we're ready to test it out. All right, so now that's a good sign that it's actually on and blinking the new, well, not a new time, but the reset time. So let's go ahead and hit bake. Hit start. Let's let it preheat the oven a little bit and see if it creates heat. So I don't recommend touching it, but I can already see that it's warm, and you can actually see it. You're gonna see it smoke just a little bit because there's dust and handprints and grease from your fingers on it and whatever happened to it in the warehouse. But as you can see, it didn't last long, and it's actually getting warm and red hot right now. So that's a good sign. And let's see if it gets up to 350 degrees. Well, now I don't know if you can see it, but we're up at 350 and it beeped at me. So we're good to go. Now it obviously is to the temperature, so it's letting the heat out. The element itself is actually not on anymore, so, or at least not full blast anymore because it's regulating the heat. But either way, you are gonna smell a little bit of a burning smell. Not very much, it's gonna smell like just dust. Kind of like when you start up your furnace for the first time in the winter. But, and you might see a little smoke as you saw, but it won't be smoke, it'll be more like dust being burnt. But, and your oils from the fingers or anything else that might have touched it. But either way, it is actually working now, so we're good to go. So a few things to consider when you're doing this. When you get the connectors off of the actual old one, when you start putting on the new one, Just make sure that you don't bend the actual part where you're actually connecting to the new element, because that will bend, and if you bend it too much, it's like metal. And kind of like the top of a soda can. If you bend it too much, the cap will actually pop off. So we don't want to do that. We don't want to break it. But just make sure you press it on firmly. It should be firm fit. It shouldn't just slide right off. So make sure you got it all the way on as far as you can, so that way you know it's on there and ready to go. And then also, obviously, just snug the bolts up. Don't over torque them. Don't over tighten them. You just need to make sure they're a little bit, what did I say, one ugga-dugga? I mean, so that's a relative term, but either way. So other than that, I will link what I purchased in the description below. So if you have a GE2 as well with the same model numbers, this one worked just fine for mine. There are others out there. I'll go ahead and give an Amazon link to make it easier for you guys too. But that'll help you on your search if you don't have the exact model I have. But the same process for pretty much all your ovens itself is going to be the same way here. You might have just a little bit of variance. The bolts might be, or the screws might be in a little bit different orientation. There might be 3, there might be just 2, 1 on each side. But mine was on top, and mine had the actual connector itself. Some are screw on, some are not. So I hope this video helped you in some way. If it helped you, give me a thumbs up. If you have any comments, questions, or opinions, go ahead and put it in the comment section below. I'd be happy to help you out if you need any help, if I can answer your question for you. If not, maybe someone in the community can help answer your question too as well. Other than that, if this is your first time to my channel, please consider subscribing, and I will see you next time.